Hi everybody, it's Meg from Books Off the Beaten Path, and I'm going to film three videos this morning, and I am going to release them at different times during the week. So I have plenty of time before church, so that's why you're seeing me in my pajamas with my makeup on. And you'll be seeing me in the same pajamas with the makeup on for the next three videos. So the first video I'm going to do is the first release chapter version, I don't know what you want to call it, of Compare and Contrast. So what we're going to do is we're going to compare and contrast Chery Ames, Army Nurse, with Christine Hanna's The Women, which I finished last night. Now, I gave this book, The Women, and I'm still thinking about it. I gave it 3 stars. It probably deserves a 4 stars because of the history in it and the effort that Miss Hannah took writing this book. But I had some problems with it. And again, this is just my opinion. Here's my thing. Let's talk about this book first, and then we'll kind of compare and contrast. This book is about Frankie McGrath, whose older brother goes to Vietnam, and then she decides she wants to go to Vietnam and be a nurse and help out with the war effort. And she goes, and she's very idealistic, and she's got a high moral standard, which she keeps pretty much all the way through. She comes back from Vietnam, suffers incredible bouts of PTSD. Family doesn't understand. She has these 2 very close friends, Ethel and Barb, and they help her through all of these really horrible things that happen to her. And she comes out at the end a stronger person, having gone through everything that she has gone through. So, and I'm trying to do this without spoilers because I know a lot of people are reading this book and everything like that. So here was my take on it. Here was my 3-star take on it. Was anything bad that could happen to Frankie did happen to Frankie. And Frankie's love affairs were frankly pretty blatantly stupid. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean. I'm reading this, I'm doing this experiment of reading these modern books and comparing them to my vintage ones. Now, in Chery Ames, there's not a real relationship. She's kind of on and off with this doctor and everything like that. But in The Women, it really is quite obvious that these men that she gets involved with, oh God, here's Twitch. These men that she gets involved with are not of the highest caliber morally. But, sorry about that. But, it's war, and you have to allow for that. The cat is moving the camera. Okay, if you'll just bear with me a moment, I'm going to put her down in the laundry room, and then we will continue our discussion. Okay, where was I? Yes. So speaking about the women. So the women are really the women in her lives, everyone from her mother to her 2 good friends to the women that she ends up with at the end of the book, where she becomes kind of a counselor for them. And it's about all these women that have gone through the same suffering that she's gone through, but Frankie goes through a lot of suffering and she doesn't handle it well. And the thing that I didn't like about the book was I didn't like the fact that she would go to these VA clinics in order to get help, And they would say, we can't help you, it's only for veterans, there were no women in Vietnam. I didn't buy that because they knew there were nurses there. And I just didn't believe that they would be tossing her aside so quickly. I just didn't believe that. And then her, like I said, everything bad that could possibly happen happened. And I thought that was a little bit over the top. I thought that, there was one relationship that she had with this guy by the name of Henry. And again, I don't want to do too many spoilers or anything like that. That was a good relationship. That was a healthy relationship. And she sabotages it on her own. And I'm not saying that people don't do that, but I'm just like, would she really have? Would she really have? When she's coming out of the darkness? I don't know. So, now, let's compare and contrast the differences. Obviously, on this one, you're going to have a lot more graphic descriptions of the horribleness of war because it was Vietnam. And Chery Ames is not holding people's amputated legs or anything like that. So that was the first obvious difference. The second obvious difference was the PTSD, which I thought was depicted pretty well in the story. I thought was depicted pretty well. Chery, in some of her books, can have a form of PTSD. It's not called that, but she definitely has moments where she stays awake at night and she worries about the patients and she worries about her performance and everything like that. So there's definitely that. But what about the similarities? What are the similarities between these two books? Well, both of these books focus a lot on the relationships between women in the healthcare field. And they support each other, and they help each other, and they help each other get through things, and they're there for each other. So both of them really focused on women in stressful situations helping each other out. Both of them also kind of focused on doctors being kind of jerks. It's not as bad in Chery Ames, but definitely we've had our share of doctors being jerks. There's kind of more doctors being jerks in the Kristen Hanna book, but both of them, don't have the highest opinion of doctors. Hold on just a sec. Joe's coming into the kitchen. It's off. Okay, I'm back. A lot of interruptions this morning. The second thing, or the third or fourth thing, I've forgotten where I've left off with the similarities, are that both of them focus on the expectations that our new nurses have against the reality of what they're up against. Healing and treating wounded people and sick people and everything like that is a lot harder for both of them than they thought it was going to be. But I have to say, Chery Ames, Army Nurse, which one did I like better? I have to say, I think I liked the Christine Hanna book better because it showed more of the depth of what this horrible thing called war can do to a person and the real strength of women's friendships. So I did like it better than Chery Ames, my beloved Chery Ames. Would I read another one about a Vietnam nurse? No, I think I've gotten all the gist on that I need on that. But I'm never going to stop reading Chery Ames because Chery Ames is so darn perky. Like, Chery Ames would never overdose. She just wouldn't do that. So anyway, that's all I have to say about those two books. weeks, and that's the end of my first chapter of Compare and Contrast, and then I will start my second book tonight, and I will check you later.